Started. It is 6 o'clock.
And so we're not here too late. Why don't we get started? Okay, our first, again, this is the, are you ready, Pua? Okay. This is,
I just want to make a couple of comments.
Sure, go ahead.
Just a couple of overall comments about the process. The first is that typically in our first meeting, we have our pro forma budget with mill rate and revenue estimates. But because we're still working on the grand list because of reevaluation, we'll probably have that next Tuesday. That's our goal. So just to let you know that that will be coming. And secondly, this year, next budget year is both of our contracts are up for negotiation for our employees, which would be Public Works and Town Hall employees is one contract and police is another. So you'll notice that there were no cost of living increases in any of the department budgets, but rather there's a contingency increase to account for that. So just wanted to make that comment.
Great.
Okay.
Okay, just so people know, this is the first of 3 joint meetings of the Woodbridge Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance for the purposes of reviewing the operating and in some cases the capital budgets of our town departments. And first up tonight is the Human Services Commission, and that will be a regular and capital budget presentation. So whoever would like to present.
Sure. I noticed that this commission was so well represented, I thought the budget was going to be very controversial.
But instead I said, no, we're old school, we've been around a while, so.
It's just nice you all.
Many years, it's wonderful commission, so.
Good job.
Good thing it started when you were in your teens.
Yes. We have Nancy Fund, who's our Youth Services Director, Lee Canning, our Senior Service Director, Susan Davidson, Janet Charleville, and Sharon Bender. I'm Mary Lee Barker, the Chair, and our Director, Mary Ellen LaRocca.
Well, good evening, everyone. We thought we would start with the capital outlay budget. And in fiscal year 17, we budgeted $64,500 to replace our 2008 vehicle. I do want to mention, which I believe you've been told, we were granted what's called a 5310 grant through Department of Transportation for our 2003 vehicle. And we'll be getting a new vehicle. We'll be ordering it probably the first week in February and getting a new vehicle around August, September. And this is through the Department of Transportation. And we'll be working with the Greater New Haven Transit District for the procurement of the vehicle and ordering through them, which we've done before. So there's many similarities that we've already been through that we'll be participating in. And again, I do want to commend the guys down in the Public Works Garage. They are wonderful to work with. And in the fall, we had to take the vehicle that we purchased, the 2008 vehicle, down to the motor vehicle department, and they even commended some of the things that our men had done, like putting in a special tool for the seat belts in the vehicle if there's ever an accident and our passengers have to get out in a hurry, a special flashlight, that type of equipment, which is a little bit different than what they've seen in the past. Also, in fiscal year 18, we're requesting $15,000, and that's to replace the commercial refrigerator, freezer, and dishwasher for the senior center. Again, closer to those dates, we'll be monitoring the bus to see whether we should keep it in fiscal year 17 or bump it up, and also the equipment. I don't know if anyone has any
questions on those items? As far as your regular budget, if you just want to give some highlights, if there's anything new in it, any reason for large increases, why don't you just start with that?
Where there are increases in our regional services And for Greater New Haven Transit District, we pay a membership fee, and it's all calculated by a formula. And there was a slight increase of $87.56. And for Quinnipiac Valley Health Department, there was an increase of $2,186.25. And again, that's done by a population figure and a calculation per capita, and the per capita went up slightly. And there was also a change in the population figure, which they get through the Department of Public Health. Programs and publicity, an increase of $2,580, and that's due to the cost of bulk mail and Florida mailing services. They do our senior center newsletter, and this past year we added 839 new households to the list. I do want to mention that when we met with the publisher who publicizes our senior center newsletter, they said, look, we can no longer do it for free for those extra 839, so there is a charge. So rather than assuming it ourselves, we got an agency to donate the money to cover that charge. Also, we're requesting for professional development an increase of $1,500 due to staff development for the senior center director to attend the ASA Aging in America conference. This is something that used to be in the budget and that was eliminated years ago in the budget. Maybe in the course of the history that the senior center director's been working for the town, which is over 30 years, she attended that conference 3 or 4 times. And you get a lot of new ideas. There's a lot of new elderly issues out there that are affecting our seniors. These are the type of topics that are discussed at this particular conference, and our commission thought it was very important that we put that money into the budget. Youth services, an increase of $1,040.96, and that's for the youth evening program, due to the attendance of Woodbridge teens going up 4%. Every year, Nancy and Jeanette Glicksman, who is our youth services, she was here. Jeanette's here. Oh, Jeanette, who's our youth services program coordinator. They go through the stats, and then we figure out what percentage are Bethany students and what percentage are Woodbridge. And when we do the budget in December, a letter goes to the first selectman in Bethany requesting their share of the money, which they've been giving for those 2 programs. In addition, we are requesting $6,510 in furniture and fixtures to purchase window shades for the cafeteria, senior center lounge, and to purchase a safety chair for emergency evacuation in the senior center. We determined, I know many of you are aware of this, but we've looked at emergency exit and how we would evacuate the seniors should an emergency arise. And many years ago, we went through this whole process, and because of the building, we are very limited in what we can do. But what's changed from years ago, when we had our drills, there were only 1 or 2 people in a wheelchair or with a walker. And they were able to fit into the area refuge, which is at the bottom of the stairs. Now, because we may have 10, 12 people, you could only fit maybe 2 people there with the door closed. And, what do we do? So we came up with the idea of purchasing, it was actually one of the commission members, came up with purchasing an emergency evacuation chair. So we ordered one for this fiscal year out of the budget, and we should be getting that probably within a month. And that will go as you enter the senior center. The other one, because once facilities moves over to the new public works garage, we'll be assuming that room, which is room 13, right across from human services. And there are going to be many activities going on in that room, so we'll put one of the chairs in the hallway as you go down the stairs to be used in an emergency. We've had the fire marshal,
Can I ask a question about the safety chair? It just takes one person at a time?
one, yes,
Back and forth,
Yes.
okay.
and they have to be carried down too.
Oh, okay, wow.
Is that something that may be used at one point, a similar chair or lift for the senior center? I know one of the things that's always bothered me is the senior cafe doesn't, other than having to use that elevator, there's no real handicap accessibility from downstairs to upstairs to where they have to go.
And you know what, we even had someone come down, we were gonna buy a ramp just to use an emergency situation. It
Right.
wasn't ADA compliant, but we said, let's put it behind the door. And when the gentleman took it in, there was no way.
Too high of a pitch or...
Two of us, right, because of the pitch, could even, it was so heavy. Lee and I tried, we couldn't have put it together. And in an emergency situation, it just wouldn't work out.
And just because we're on that subject, can you update me or us on, there was talk about redoing the bathroom to make it handicap accessible in the senior cafe. Is that still
Yeah,
in
it's in
motion?
the works with small cities, grant funds.
For use of grant funds for that.
Yeah, that's great.
We haven't heard yet.
So we're waiting for
We're just
approval.
waiting to hear
Right.
for approval, right?
And quite a few seniors did write letters supporting that.
Great.
Mary Ellen, I have a couple
Sure.
of questions. So we're still paying Clifford Beers, correct?
Clifford Beers,
Right.
yes.
So there's no projected volume for counseling for children in your summary page. So was that an omission, or did the focus of the arrangement with them change? So, you know, where you have the general description of the department, you have your statistics underneath.
Right?
So
Provides-
for the projected fiscal year 15-16, there's no number there. It's in this summary page, this one.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
So I'm just asking if the nature of the relationship has changed, or is it
No,
just,
there's still, that's probably a typo.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there should be a
Oh,
number there.
It's definitely a very important service to our
Right,
youth
that's
and
what I
families.
remember.
And Nancy has been so kind recently, there's a new director of guidance over at Amity High School. So we're in the process of arranging a meeting with them, Clifford Beers, and we're
That's
also
great.
going to invite Beecher Road School.
Right, right. I mean, I know how pleased we have been in the past with their service, so that's why I was questioning that. And then the other issue is, in the narrative, you mentioned about not having sufficient space for increasing the types of programs. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that and what some of your thoughts are.
Prepared to talk about that a little bit, yes.
Okay, great.
So you want to hear about that now? I believe in your packet, because the space allocation issue has become huge, we have a memo that addresses short and long-term goals there. And we've been discussing the space issues at our commission meetings at the department and also with the town, because we, as you know, our population is aging, and there's younger seniors, also known as baby boomers, which I guess they don't like. We have to come up with another phrase for that. And we share that space in our center building. This is our space. It's our office space, it's our program space, it's our activity space. And this is what we have, and we're sharing it currently with the child care and the recreation department. So that memo, which should be in your packet there, it gives some long and short-term goals for what we need are accessible programs and activities across the range of days and times, morning, afternoon, evening. A lot of people are still working and they're interested in programming. We have, this growing group who support our tax base and want to stay in town, and they're looking for programs. They're calling us up, they're contacting us, and we need to be prepared to accommodate them. So what we've done is we've put together this memo in your budget packet so that, it apprises you of what our needs are, asking for your consideration and some return response on how we can address these issues. We've been lucky to gain space in the building. I think Mary Ellen mentioned room 13, which will be ours once facilities moves out, although that's kind of on hiatus because childcare, I guess, is going to be using that space for short term while there's abatement going on in the building. But eventually that'll be ours, and we already have plans for that space as far as programming. But we're also looking for additional areas that we can use and share, with the other departments.
So, once the old firehouse is renovated, would you consider using some of that space?
We're open to other spaces that are available.
Okay.
The issue becomes, how far do we spread the senior center out?
Right, sure.
We've had issues already where some programs are like off-site or in other areas, and it's difficult to manage in those, it requires additional communication, with the people that run those programs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard, Lee can't be in like 3 places at once.
Right.
And we're trying to, have a community center. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, is bring this, in as much as we can do in the center building as possible. That's our goal.
And sometimes people don't realize it's us that's actually sponsoring the program. Like even today, we were at Emeritus, someone brought up about the book club at the library. Well, we started that program, and Lee goes over to the library now and meets with the group. But also, since then, the library does collaborate with us with that particular program. And we've been working on a new program with the Institute of Learning for retirees through Albertus Magnus, and it looks like they're going to do an educational course for us. But because they need certain space, it's probably going to be held over at the library. So sometimes those may be our programs, but people forget it's really the senior center who's sponsoring them.
Something that we're going to be having a much larger discussion on is the old firehouse, and I'm not 100% familiar with the original plan. However, I do know that part of the original plan was to move the fitness center, which is the other half of your floor, over to the old firehouse. That recreation was going to use space in the old firehouse. And I, from what I gather originally, that the discussion was that the police would use part of that to possibly move some of their equipment. And then through some discussions that have happened here in the last few months, it seems like the police may not be able to utilize that building in the manner they first thought. So if space became available on that floor, and I believe that's there's 2 rooms there for the fitness and maybe room 16.
Right.
Is that the kind of rooms, because it would keep you together, is that something that would be at least something Human Services would, when we put this large plan together, it's always nice to know how it all fits, the puzzle. And
Well, we definitely would be interested. However, just keep in mind, it is pretty far from the elevator for people to come, through daycare, right. But it is something we definitely would be interested in. Because we could hold a course in a classroom there.
like in room 16? Or,
Right, the yoga room or something like that, yeah.
Okay, great. I just, for my own sake, when we start talking about that further, would like to know if you felt it was something that would be a good positive. Okay, thank you.
And what are the rules about using the meeting space in the firehouse? The new firehouse? I mean, there's an elevator that takes you up there.
I mean, the community room. The upstairs community.
In the new firehouse.
In the new firehouse I'm talking about.
It's upstairs.
Mhm. Yeah, but there's an elevator right there. I mean, if you were gonna run a course, I mean, there's parking that's right there. Are we allowed to use that space?
Well, that space is being used by other groups. What I hear Human Services saying, what they said before, is they would like to keep everything together in the center building as much as possible. In terms of other spaces, the library is sometimes available, that might be available. I'm not sure that's addressing really the issue. But for a short-term or, one-off kind of thing, there are many, many places that could be used, absolutely.
So, in terms of program expansion, there are other venues. It's not that that's the permanent solution, but that you shouldn't hold back in terms of the program expansion just because the space isn't directly adjacent to where you are.
No, we're working with the library and other groups, wherever we can, to implement the programs.
Okay.
And there are opportunities too to have programming in the evening. Lee is here. She's had people who are baby boomers go to her and say, well, gee, you ran such a nice Tai Chi program through a grant, which was very inexpensive and successful, but we'd like to see it in the evening. And that's something, if we have the space, we probably could do it very easily because you just need the instructor to show up. you wouldn't have to have personnel from the senior center. So, and Lee, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add?
Well, we're getting that where people want to do more things at night. And we just signed up to do a cooking program for men in March during the day. And we're all excited. We're doing it with Emeritus. And it's going to be a 4-week class from 9 to 12, and they're going to be cooking pork loins and making chicken soup and getting booklets and all that. And if it works out, if it's successful, we're going to try to do it in the evening. Because again, I'm getting requests, gee, I would like to be part of that program, but I'm still working. Could you do it at night? And so more and more people are requesting that. So
I would assume that night programming is not so difficult for you for space, but it might make problems for other groups that use the cafeteria at night, not so much for you. So there's that ripple effect, right? I'm sure you would prefer to be in your home territory, even at night with the kitchen.
And Lee, to that point, if you did run night programs, would you have transportation still available? Is it still accessible for those who may need it, for the seniors?
again, Accounting was assuming that the night programs would be more for people that, because the
younger
seniors,
seniors are
if you get a senior, they don't like to go out at night, but it's more trying to reach that, the young,
What did you call them?
the young olds.
The young old?
Yeah.
I don't think you know what.
If I can just respond to that, like when we have the concerts, we are going to put the bus on at night. But because there's a whole protocol that would have to be followed if there's any incidents involving that vehicle, Lee or I would have to be, around where we can be reached very easily, if something should occur. And then, if the vehicle breaks down.
So evening trains.
Right, but we are going to do a few programs this summer. We're planning on it.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, next up is Building Department, TPZ, ZBA, IWA, and that means Terry Gilbertson is in the house.
Whole alphabet.
Good evening. I'm here this evening with my colleague Christine Sullivan. And we have no capital budget to present to you. We have no requests. In our building department, if you'd like, this is I believe it's our 7th year of non-personnel flat funding of the department.
Only the personnel issue there, one of the lines has an increase because there's a mandatory step increase for an employee. So it's it's a clerical step increase for a new employee.
That just based on years of service?
Correct. Yeah.
So really, yeah, it's a flat budget. We don't have revenue yet, do we, Tom?
No, it's revenues. I mean, you could speak about.
Yeah, how's that looking, Terry?
We do a revenue projection as part of our budget, and we had in this particular past budget year a $70,000 building permit fee. We are projecting that we're going to reach 100,000 in building permit fees, and we are projecting in the next fiscal year that we'll be able to reach 100,000 again, as we think that we're going to finish this year with. This is, of course, what this asks us to do is to project the construction activity 18 months into the future in Woodbridge, and this is the time I usually tell you that if I could do that with great accuracy, I would work someplace else. But I do believe that we look at a 20-year building permit activity when we prepare all these things. And it's interesting, when we don't do 10 new houses a year, we do a lot of renovations of existing structures. And so it just seems like it all kind of works out. It's interesting. We are at less activity in the past 3 or 4 years than we have for many years. And I think that I don't anticipate any boom in building in the next fiscal year.
Okay, are there any questions on the operating budget? Just fire away if there are. Hearing none, we'll move on to Department 1180, which is TPZ. Town planning and zoning. That's what we'd like to see, 50% decrease. Okay, Terry, we'll move on. Is there anything you want to mention about that, Terry?
Non-personnel, non-program things, we're still flat funding this agency. The only change in this budget is that we've just completed, next Monday we'll be completing the POCD, and so that's why you're seeing some decrease in these line items.
So I do have a question about the general professional services. So you're asking for 20,000. It was 15,000 in fiscal year 14, and it indicates that it's for a planning consultant. And what are they going to be focusing on?
By that time, we'll have had a new POCD, a Plan of Conservation
Right.
Development,
Yep.
and we would like to have funds to implement that Plan of Conservation Development, which we believe will produce a new zoning regulation that will reflect our new planning efforts.
And what do you need the consultant to do for you then?
The-
That's what I'm asking.
Well, most communities have a planner.
Correct.
Our last planner was Sam Spievogel, and we departed Sam, and we may rest in peace. We haven't had one for a very long time, and I'm not sure that the Town Planning and Zoning Commission, whose initiative this is, has thought whether or not they want access to a planning consultant to actually prepare drafts of zoning regulations, or if they have something more in mind, but we're funding this at their request to provide the resources should they decide to need that.
You and I have talked about planners, and I know you have supported the idea of having a planner in town, as we used to do. And I think you know better than the rest of us what the functions are. But it does seem that it's come up a few times, as different issues and different tasks come up, and we say, well, who would do that? And Terry said, well, that would be a planner. So, and if you have other examples, share them now, otherwise we can look into that.
Or can I ask you a question about, so the idea at this point, at least that TPC has, is that they can use this, let's call it a planner, for 1 year to get us started with some kind of plan. But they don't anticipate this being something they'd like to keep in the budget, X amount of thousand, because there's nothing for that going forward other than 2015, 2016, and I'm just wondering, is that something we should expect, if not that amount, a different amount each year? I mean, it's hard to do planning and then walk away, a planner usually continues.
I agree, and I think that we've gone through a remarkable planning exercise presently, and I think that implementing that plan, that planning effort, is probably more than a 1 year adventure. So, right now, we try to handle in our office any planning tasks that come up, and we've had a little bit of slowdown in business, quite frankly, at our land use agencies. You'll see that as we talk further on other agencies. We've used that time that we have to fill in as much as we can. But planning is a profession, and we might be the better town for it if we had more access to it.
Just a quick question, because the reductions look pretty significant in this budget, but it's really because we're not paying the professional that helped us with the town plan of conservation and development.
It's the only reason.
Well, yeah, because there's actually almost a 10 grand increase from the year before we had that.
Well, it's 5,000. It's
Well-
from 15,000 to
Yeah.
20,000. It's 5,000. That's what I was asking about, Joe.
No, that's one line item. I'm looking at the bottom line.
Oh, the bottom line.
You got 5,000 and you got 4,000. It's not a $9,000 increase from 13-14 where we didn't have the.
No.
That's all.
It's still 5,000. around.
Last year's budget, that entire amount, the $60,160, was to pay off the balance of the amount from Malone and McBroom to assist the Town Planning and Zoning Commission in completing an updated Town Plan of Conservation and Development. The next step that they're looking at is now that you adopt an updated plan, what goes along with that more often than not, and they've already recognized that, is updating your regulations or changing your regulations to accommodate things that are now within the plan that the regulations that are currently in place may not address. And as Terry says, that's not something that may just take a year, that may take whatever. But we honestly, as staff, haven't talked with them fully about what it is that they're envisioning using that planner for. We can envision that part of that planning function would be to assist in updating the regulations. They have different visions that are within the updated town plan. We should mention that that is on, the hearing is Monday night, so we invite everyone to come and participate in that, because it is the town plan that you're working on. And part of that would be looking at different ways to visualize the flats or downtown area, however you choose to historically look at it. And that may require some more planning activity as plans come in or parcels become available to be developed.
Thank you.
So let's call it to be determined as far as
Correct.
that line item goes. We may have to put some numbers in there for the future years based on how we see how it goes this year once we're
Correct.
past the implementing. Okay.
Anything else on PPZ? How about ZBA, 1185,
CBA is
completely flat budget?
we believe they met 3 times last year.
They met 3 times this past year.
There hasn't been a lot of activities. No one has seemed to been inclined to appeal the decision of your zoning enforcement officer. We haven't had a lot of appeals. We are flat funding it because, A, it's not very much money, and we just don't know if we could have a good deal of activity or not, and I think it's prudent for us to flat fund it at the rather modest level that it is at presently.
Any questions on ZBA?
We should just note that typically with zoning board of appeals applications, what they're typically involving are older residents in town that because they may have been created prior to zoning, are in places on their lots where they may need zoning relief or seek zoning relief to do some expansion or correction within their house.
Okay, finally, inland wetlands, which is tab 1630, towards the back of the book.
This is another budget with non-personnel items being flat funded for a number of years. In my view, that's another way of decreasing the budget, by the way. But we think that we're going to be okay with flat funding.
Any questions on this? We're good? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. In the next phase, I guess economic development is asked to go on first because they had somebody else in, but I don't know if John is ready. You're not here, that's fine. John, are you ready or you want to wait for the troops to come in?
I have to wait for Bob.
All right, that's okay. Why don't we move on to some of the 8 o'clock items?
You can go to libraries here.
Oh, libraries here? Okay. Okay. You're all set? That's tab 1550. Why don't we do capital first? First.
We pushed off the capital budget by a year. So
Okay.
then we have no requests
Nothing,
for capital. We can move.
We already flipped to that page, that's not easy.
All right, so now we want money. And as you all know, this is Lynn Serra. She is our interim director of our library, and she's going to move forward with this.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
Okay, it looks, the library is actually coming in with an overall increase of 2.56%, of which 1.58% of that number covers the negotiated salary increases for all the staff, including a minimum wage pay raise for the library pages. So that actually leaves a total increase for the rest of the budget of only 0.98%. And the only increase of any significance that we're asking for is to actually add operating budget funds for children's programming. We would like to add this as a new line item. Historically, there's only been a line item for adult programming, and the Friends of the Woodbridge Library funded the children's programming in its entirety. So the Friends income has been gradually decreasing, so we feel it's kind of imperative that we add this line item to the operating budget so that we can be assured that we provide quality children's programming for the years to come. In 2014, programming is one area of library operations that has increased according to the Public Library Statistical Profile, which is compiled by the state of Connecticut. And last year we had 6,205 patrons attend 339 children's programs. These quality programs are usually very well attended with people on waiting lists if their space is limited. So we would really love to continue to be successful in providing this great service to the children of Woodbridge. So that is really the only significant increase we're asking for. Other line item increases are negligible. As you probably saw in my letter of transmittal, our lion dues have gone up slightly after a decrease last fiscal year. Gas and water, our estimates were a little bit low, so we upped them a little bit, but those tend to vary from year to year. And the last thing we were asking for is a little more money in our computer line items so that we can keep current with changing technology needs. That's it.
Question for you.
Sure.
In terms of, for programs and publicity for adults, you're keeping it the same at 3,000.
We are at this point,
Right.
and we're hoping that we will get some Friends funds, but it's a lot to expect them to fund the children's programming, because we do more of them also.
Correct. So are you thinking that potentially in the future, unless something else happens with the Friends,
Right.
that you may have to come back
We
and
might.
increase that line?
Yeah,
Okay.
that definitely.
That is potentially possible. Our hope is that our new director, when we hire them, will be given the goal of putting new life into the Friends and making that a priority, and we're interviewing with that in mind.
Okay, thank you.
I have a quick question about the security. It's going up possibly 6%?
Yeah.
Is that negotiable at any?
Oh, I think
What's
we've
going
tried
on?
in the past.
It goes up every year, and we're in
Yeah.
a 3-year contract. I believe
Okay.
it's 3-year.
I think so.
And in order for us to change companies, we have to change the
System.
whole system,
Right.
which
Yeah.
would be a large investment.
Is this the last of the third year or coming up? or-
Could be.
Okay.
Could be. We've talked about it every year, and it consistently is an item where we seem to not be in good favor with this company. They do this, and it goes up even more if we have calls. It's not like they're covered.
Yeah, I
So
saw
we're-
that.
Yeah.
Papers. Okay.
And according to other libraries, we've been told that that is the norm.
It looks like you're adding a part-time position for circulation, is that right?
We actually had a couple of people leave, so we needed to add a part-time circulation person that can cover some of the hours.
So the new part-time person replaces people that you had, it's not an
Right, we already
increase in
had.
overall staffing?
Right, correct. yeah.
As far as the library director, I understand we have an interim and eventually a full-time or permanent. You expect it to go up irregardless of the fact that we don't have a full-time director yet. You still expect the salary to need an increase over the year. Between what we're paying the interim and what we may pay whatever full-time when we.
Right. Lynn received a bump for taking on responsibilities. She's still doing the tech services position. And our new library director would be hired at a library salary commensurate with their experience level, which would be negotiated by Tony and Ellen.
So basically, there's a few more man-hours now that are needed because someone has to cover, so it's kind of, we're using.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I follow the question. We're in 2016, we're moving out, and so that will be a whole year with a library director
By that time, you expect
library director salary. Oh yeah, we're hoping that we can relieve Lynn of doing double duty as soon as we can.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
I just wanted to thank Tony Genovese and Karen Crosby and Jeanette and the entire commission for making this relatively painless for me. Thank you.
And frankly, we're all very lucky to have Lynn.
Indeed. Lynn, thank you for taking on the responsibility.
Thank you.
How are we looking, John? You ready?
He's here. We're going.
The recreation is 1510.
Okay, just to go over a couple of things in our accomplishments, just to let you know that the outstanding summer concert program it was a great year this year for concerts like this, and we came up with 2 new components added to the concerts: the Taste of Woodbridge and the Health Fair. The Taste of Woodbridge was off the charts. It was just out of this world. All the companies came up, everybody was here, the town came out in droves, and the Health Fair was well attended. It was much well attended, and we hope to have those again next year. For that, so I just wanted to let you know on that one. On our budget this year, the total that we're asking for is $20,438. That's the absolute total amount. Of that, $10,000 is a union contract that we're going to be paying to Amity High School for. We're not allowed to do any cleaning on the high school. We're not allowed to do anything on their anything. And last year, the Board of Ed was fantastic. We didn't know this was coming down the pike. We didn't have it in our budget, and the Board of Ed covered it. They covered the whole thing. So I talked to Dr. Stella, we were talking, and we decided we're supposed to split it because we both use the facility half each. So we split it. It's $20,000 for the cost. They'll come up with 10, and we'll come up with 10.
Can I just put that in context? That would be because of the construction of Beach Road School
Yes.
programs are at the high school, which will also be the case next summer.
Well, I just figured everybody knew that.
Well, maybe not everybody.
Like my wife said, you
listening
talk
knows
without telling me. It is, and we're going to be there again this year. This year we're going to be at the high school, and the pool is going to be totally closed. So we'll be at the Country Club of Woodbridge swimming in the morning. So that would be part of our program. We'll work together on that. And then the only thing we ask for is we have minimum wage increase. A minimum wage increase. Wages are going up $7,288. Busing union, we use the buses. This is just the buses after school. We use busing to go out off campus. We go to Cunham, we go to karate, we go to the bowling center, and they just went up a little bit. So we went up $150 in that. And I did put in my budget. I did ask for 2 things in my budget I'd like to have. I'd like to have my summer camp director and my assistant summer camp director, who are just fabulous people to have. These people are so qualified in what they do. So I just bumped them up a little bit. I just gave them a small, tiny raise. Between the 2 of them, I gave them $913. I think one got $500, $600, the other one got $300. Just a little bump like this, because what they do and how they handled Amity High School, Nick Tottori and Beth Young just did a fabulous job. They just stepped up to the plate, and they just did a super job at Amity High School, and we recovered. And we were at 2 locations. We were also at the Assumption Church for the preschool. But it went very well. It was smooth. It was nice, and we were contained to the back. The security is a little bit big. We're going to have my son John Michael is going to be the head of security again this year, and we're going to have 4 people with him as the head of security because it's so vast and so big that at one point we were looking for someone in one group, they were in another group, we didn't have people, so we had radios out on the thing, and we found them in like 2 minutes, because we had people out there. But then I was looking at it and I said to myself, you know what, we're covered everywhere but the front of the school. And even though the school is there, we need to protect our children at summer camp, because we're outside, we're in the open all the time. So we have communication, and it's good if there's an accident, injury, or anything like that. And the school was excellent. They were so good to us, the superintendent, everybody. They gave us, the athletic director gave us carts to use. We used their carts. We put water out. We just had a great time, and we used their water. It got really hot in the summertime. They put the sprinklers on, and it was a two thing. We were out there running around, and we just had bare feet, and we were able to go out there and go on the thing, and they watered their grass. Yes. Nice going, Matt.
Figured as much.
And there's only one thing I asked for. I asked for volleyball courts. Jim put together a fabulous, about 2 or 3 years ago, indoor volleyball. And I figured, well, let's see how it goes. And we have had, Jim team stinks, but forget about that. Well, they're in first place, and then they lost 4 in a row. But we have an indoor where it's men and women. It's a combined team. You have to have at least 2 women on the team playing or there has to be at least 1 woman on the court. Like this. So we make it fair that everybody's equal, and those are the only rules we have. And some of the women are too good. There's some really good volleyball players out there who have played in college, but there's a need for it. And then summertime comes, and you can't play inside the gym. It gets so hot in Beecher Road School. It's so hot inside, and we have no outdoor facility. So what I thought we could find a piece of property somewhere in Woodbridge. We have property at the end of, up at Acorn Hill, or at the backside of center field, like this, and we can put in 1 or 2, or West Riverfield, sand courts. And I figure for about $3,000, we can come in, put in the sand, we can do the thing, put up the poles, the posts, everything like that, design it, put it somewhere, and we can extend this to outdoors. We can extend this to an outdoor program and go year round, right through the whole thing, because everybody wants to play. And I fashioned this off of Cheshire High School. If you go to Cheshire High School, as you pull in, there's a beautiful recreational outdoor volleyball sand pit right there. And I've never gone by there without seeing people in it. It's just good. So that's basically in a nutshell what recreation is asking for.
And especially this year, because we won't be at Beecher again this summer. I mean, we've had the summer league, like John mentioned, it is hot in Beecher Gym, but we've had it before. It has been running, but we weren't able to run it last summer. And again, this summer we'll be also kicked out of the gym too. Yeah. So that's why.
I'd like to think that after the improvements at Beecher Road School, the gym won't be so hot, but you might still prefer an outdoor place if possible. I would think in the summer it's nicer to be outdoors.
Yeah,
But
it would be.
hopefully the
And the only other thing I have,
systems will work better.
excuse me, I'm sorry for
No,
interrupting.
go ahead.
The only other thing I have to say is that our fees, the fees that we charge for recreation, we held the fees again one more time. I think coming next year, we may have to sit down and look at those fees and maybe bump them up. But I think with the economy the way it is, and the economy is just starting to turn around, I think we'll hold the fees one more time and we'll hang in there. We'll do good.
So John, I have a couple of questions. So you mentioned that there won't be any summer swimming lessons, and so that's one of the reasons for decrease in revenue in that arena.
Right.
Is there a reason not to use the pool at the Country Club of Woodbridge to give swimming lessons?
Yes. When we use the Country Club of Woodbridge, they open up their program to their members at a certain time. We come in and we have recreation till 12, and then 12 o'clock is when they open up to all of their things to all of their members, so their pool's not available from 12 o'clock on. But we have swimming, we'll have all our people there for swimming in the morning, and if anybody needs swimming or wants swimming lessons, we'll do the same thing as we did last year. Teresa opened up when she was over there with her guard. We bring our guards over. Mr. Taddy has his guards that are there, but we bring our guards over there, and we offer free swimming lessons. If anybody needs swimming lessons, we will give them swimming lessons if they need it, as is.
And then my second question has to do with the security. So you have as one of your objectives for 2015-16 to add security personnel until 6 p.m. And where is the budget related to trying to do that? Because doesn't that cost money?
It's in there. Hold on.
Safety personnel.
Okay.
Safety, back on 1A.
It's on 1A, it's $21,600.
That includes the site supervisor.
Right. And if you go to my book, page 6, under personnel, 50320, you'll see security personnel, 5:30 to 8:30, 3 to 6 PM.
John, might that be under our part-time seasonal line item that's going up 5,000? Is that possibly
No.
where we agreed?
No.
So I think we're looking to find it in that narrative where that increase, maybe Tony can help us with that.
Yeah, it's under 50320.
Part-time seasonal, or...
Right, if you go under
Security personnel.
Yeah,
it goes
there's a
from
5,000
I just didn't know where it was
25,000 to
Yeah,
Yeah, it's in the budget. It's in the budget.
$4,000.
Yep,
Got it.
I got it.
And you also mentioned that you'd like to have access to Beecher on the weekends. And right now you don't because there are added costs associated.
Beecher North is closed off to us. They close it off. They don't bring in a custodian or anything like that. They don't. And I just thought maybe that's an extra gym that we could use or utilize that we could have on the weekends. We could use like that. But the cost is in that they have to bring I guess it's union-wise. They have to bring in a custodian to open up their half of the building. They get so many hours. And
So has there been a cost proposal put together in terms of what that would mean? And
no, I don't think there. I didn't put anything together.
Okay.
I just thought, but I just know. It's just a wild thought, having extra gyms in there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I have a question. I think I've just fallen behind, but how...
Well, at your age, it happens.
If only you...
We don't start like that.
Johnny, if only you knew.
Is he a young old or?
The young old,
No,
or the young old?
I'm
Or the young.
old, tired, and grumpy, that's me. But that aside, how are you doing with online registrations and taking credit cards and how...
Well, the material's all good. It's beautiful. It's in a nice box. We haven't. It hasn't been put in. We haven't been up. I don't think
Okay,
we're
that's what I was just asking.
up to grade on the server yet, Tony.
Yeah, we're in the process of upgrading.
Right. As soon as they upgrade the server, we'll be into.
Yeah, I had an idea it was in process, so I was just
Yeah.
looking for a progress report. Cool, thank you.
Any other questions for John?
Yeah, I have a couple. John, let's just go back to the volleyball court for a minute. Approximately the size that's needed, what kind of space you would need, regardless of where it might end up?
Tennis court. Like just the tennis court size.
Roughly 40 by 80.
40
Yeah,
by 80, okay.
that's all.
Per court, and so either one.
Per court. That's all it is.
And then, going back a little bit to the wages and the, how many hours as a director are you currently giving us a week? How many hours are you?
How many hours am I giving a week?
Yeah.
About 34. 30, somewhere in that range, 30 to 34, like that. But I choose to do that at this point.
So how many hours a week are we paying you for? I guess is my question. What is officially? I know the point is that we've added some responsibilities, but
I'll just say what's on my check is it says 48 hours, okay, on the check. And that's a technical question that Tony and I are going to sit down with like this. I think what's happening is, and I'm just going to put it out on the floor. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do this though. I found a stub of mine from 2010. Okay, May 2010, and I had to work 42 hours. And I started off when I took this job at 21 hours a week. And in 2010, I made $26 an hour as director, and I had to work 42 hours. I now have to work 48 hours, 24 hours a week, and I'm still making $26 an hour. I'm still making every time you give me a raise, every time you raise it up, my hourly wage stays the same. You just add more hours to what I have to work. And I don't think that's fair. I think there's something wrong. I think there's a mistake there that I should be working 21 hours as I'm a part-time director, and my hourly wage at 26, I think I've been getting 26 since 27 years. I think when I started. If you go back on my thing, I think it's wrong, Tony?
You get your salaried employee, a part-time salaried employee that gets a cost of living increase like everybody else every year.
If you do it that way, at a certain...
I don't know about the number of hours, it should be stable. You should be working the same number of hours.
I should be working 21 hours, and
Right.
if I was hired on 21 hours,
Correct.
and I should be getting, then that number that says 26 should show, but if it shows on my check 48 hours, and I have to work 24 hours a week, and I don't work 24 hours a week, then I'm in violation of what you're telling me I have to work legally on my, what it says on there. Well, I brought this to your attention a few months ago. I came in and stopped in your office, and I brought the same thing into you. And just brought it in, and you said you would follow up on it, but I know how busy you get like this, and I didn't follow in. But I think that the thing is, I should be getting 21 hours a week is what I should be working. You can't run a rec department for 21 hours, I know that, so I'm not worried about that. So something, I'm just
I
saying.
don't think this is the forum for us to discuss this. If you're saying that the number of hours you're supposed to work is insufficient to do the job, I think that's an important
correct.
issue, and I think it's for the commission to take it up and bring it to us. I don't
Okay.
think that's really what we need to get into at
I
this point.
didn't know
We
how to
don't
answer,
have the
I just didn't know how to
information.
answer the question, that's why I brought it up. I apologize, Tony.
If you don't mind, Matt, I
No,
think
and I
that's...
apologize to you, Joe.
So why don't we move on to the next
I
question?
wasn't trying to get at the salary as much as I was trying to get at, there's new responsibilities for our rec director because we added the pool, and I was just wondering if we could figure out how many more hours may be needed in the future, and that's something the rec commission
Well, the
can...
pool, the
can
summer
talk about.
concerts were applied to
The
it.
rec commission is going to...
That's
That's
fine.
fine,
So
that's
I
fine.
You should bring that to the rec commission and
Yeah.
then to,
Again, Tony, my apologies, I didn't know where to go with this when it was asked.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. We're gonna move, as I said, economic development needs to move up, so I think Jody is here. So Jody's gonna do next. 1620.
Who's up next, Matt?
Economic development.
We're just going to...
Then we'll bring our smiling pool director up.
Okay.
We saw the smile.
16?
1620.
Thank you.
That caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting that. I agree. Okay. Jody, why don't you just run through the,
You know what, I don't have
Oh.
a handout, so I'd like to run through it. I thought I'd be able to access on my computer. Does someone else have?
You want a copy of your budget?
What? Yeah. What?
Karen.
Sorry about that. Let's see. We basically put in what we had asked for last year, although we did not receive it. We need some part-time clerical help. We need to keep working on the website and updating the website, and we estimate that that's 4,800 or 4,600, I can't see. We put in some money in for printing. We'd like to do some mailers. We have 1 to 2 outreach breakfasts each year, or outreach events, and that would cover the cost of printing and mailing. We would like to join some associations, and we attend some conferences, so we put in 200 for that. And then just general, actually the meeting supplies are because we do provide food and refreshments at the outreach breakfast, or outreach events, which have tended to be breakfasts. Last year, I think you gave us what we asked for, with the exception of the website monies, and I think that it would be helpful to be able to have a more facile website. When the website was created, we had looked and taken bids from independent contractors, and instead we had just gone on the back end of the Houston contract for the town. And because of that, it's very, very stable, and we were not able to sort of make it as dynamic as we'd like to make it. It looks like the town website, it feels like the town website, and we can't really make it at all interactive.
Are you saying the town website is not at all attractive? No.
It's really not, sorry, it's not dynamic. It's not, it's a town website. And so because of it, we're not able to take advantage of some social media opportunities that we would have. So it's really up to the town as to what you guys want to do to foster the interaction between the businesses. I think we've had a phenomenal year, even without that money, in terms of businesses locating in Woodbridge, between the new restaurants opening up and a new business is opening up, it just really seems to have a different feel. It would be nice to build upon that. This would be an investment in building upon that and making there be more dynamic interaction between the businesses and making residents want to go to the website, because I don't have the usage barometers, which would be nice to build in usage barometers on the website, but I have a feeling that it's kind of static and not being used as much as it can. And we also haven't populated it as much as we wanted to, because we don't have the funds to make sure, and the resources, because we're all volunteers and we can't make sure all the businesses sign up. But again, it would just be an investment in the future and in future tax dollars, and that's the way we look at it.
Any questions for Jody?
I have a couple. Jody, just for my curiosity more than anything, I see for the last at least year, we had 1,000 for office supplies. And this year there's nothing, and we had last year 0 for meeting supplies, and this year is 1,000. Is there just a switch in line item? Or?
Yeah, because it's more meeting supplies, it's not really office supplies.
So you just basically switched the wording,
Yeah.
so that's why it's like that, okay. And then the general professional services that you're projecting would be 40, there was, it looks to me, because I see a 0, there was none of that this year. There was nothing
We had
to be
asked
attended.
for it. I mean, basically,
I do
we
remember.
put the request in that we put in last year, because I don't think the needs have changed. Your committees just looked at it and said, we don't want to put the money into the web services, which is what we're asking for. And we said, fine, we won't do anything interesting with the website. The need's still there, so we just put the request back in.
Thank you, Jody.
Does Betsy have the capability to work on the website?
Yes, it does. So the economic development website is I don't know the technical term, but it's part of our town website.
Mm-hmm.
And the QSEND limitations, as I understand it, Tony, the limitations of the website are limitations that we have in all aspects of our website.
Mm-hmm.
To go to the next level of flexibility is quite costly. It's something that Tony has looked into, and Betsy has something we would love to do for the town.
Right.
But it's a major undertaking to go to the next level, and hopefully that's something we can get to. But it's part of this. There's a tab for the business, and it's certainly going much better than it was since we have Betsy in all aspects of the
Absolutely. I mean, our ability to communicate with the town because of Betsy is, we went from 0 to 90 very quickly because Betsy's, pushing things out. That being said, when you go back to the main document, which is the website, you're just limited. Again, and that was the way the contract was granted, that we, I don't think the town paid any extra for the EDC page on the website, because it's considered.
We don't pay anything extra for
Right, it was just on the back
Extra page
side,
on
but
the
we have
website.
the same limitations. I don't know what the town wants to do to upgrade, but I just know that from our vantage point for economic development, It's- So if you received this money, Jody, then you would develop your own website?
No,
we would not.
So-
What I think we would do is we'd ask QSIN to do some modifications to our page. Whether or not they would be applicable to modifications that the town would want, I mean, Betsy would have to coordinate that as well, that's a
Okay.
possibility. But we just know that there's we cannot manipulate, it's a
Right.
template,
Sure. No, I
basically,
agree.
and
Yeah.
we're limited to the body of the template. And to write any code to change a template is costly.
Okay.
But if you receive the 4,800, are you confident that whoever this person is can do what you want with?
Well, it's the
with that
company
idea?
that the town has retained to manage the website. We received a quote a little over a year ago that this is what it would cost to do what we wanted. The way things have moved in the internet, they move so quickly that, actually practically it's probably cheaper now than it was, a little bit cheaper than it was then to do it, but the possibilities are more dynamic because things have just moved more quickly. So,
I was just kind of curious if that's a fast number and you knew what you were going to get for that, because sometimes the 48 turns into
No, we wouldn't allow, we would not sign, we would not.
So you know what you could get for that
We would
48,
make
and
sure that we would keep within budget. We're not going to just, and Tony would be a part of that, because we don't actually negotiate with CUSIN. Tony negotiates with CUSIN. So, so we would work with Tony and CUSIN to try to modify the website so that we could, so it would just be more responsive, and it would have a look and feel more like, you know, when you see a Facebook page now, you know, or which is, they're dynamic. They're having video clips on it. They're having all sorts of exciting things. So when you scroll down and you want to interact, when you look at a static web page, it's static. So and even just the way the businesses are listed. I mean, that's where I think we'd start. The businesses are listed in a very static way. We would like to have maps. We've always wanted to have a map that would be interactive, that you drill down into the map. It's very cumbersome, and I'd like to see that just change. So if you wanted to say, okay, what restaurants are in Woodbridge, you'd be able to drill down, find out where they are on the map, which we've tried to do, but it's hard on the website, current site, and then go to the menu, and then and see quickly, okay, well, I want to eat at Woodbridge Social tonight, but tomorrow I want to eat at Antonio's, and I've looked at the menus and I know what their specials are, and I can go in. Right now, people aren't going to do that. It would take too long.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, just a quick question. Absent all of this with the website, I share your sense of vitality, I guess, about the business district. Do you have a figure, a current figure on a vacancy rate, or how occupancy has increased over this past year? 'Cause that's
I do not have a figure. What I think we're going to do, Ellen and I met with Ginny Kozlowski of the Rex Regional Economic, I always get messed up with what they now call themselves as opposed to but the Regional Economic Partnership. And what we talked about is having the realtors come in to, the Woodbridge realtors come in, the commercial realtors come into our meeting in the near future and try to get them organized. Because what we found talking to Ginny is that that Ginny was not knowing what vacancy rates were, what specific vacancies we had that were maybe site specific, like the Bayer Building, and so we weren't our realtors were not providing that information in a coherent fashion, and so we would like to, as an economic development, make sure that those kind of statistics exist, because right now they're not easy to get, and it's not even a question of what the vacancy rate is, but what's the vacancy rate for laboratory? What is the vacancy rate for realtor? For retail, and what is the vacancy rate for medical office or upstairs office? I think to have an overall vacancy rate actually is not a good indication of what we need when people are not just looking for general spaces, but they're looking for very, very specific spaces. So that's one of our goals for this year.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We can get back on schedule here. So next is Country Club Pool, tab 1530.
Can I go back to recreation for just 1 second?
Are you back again?
Yes.
John, don't get him upset before I start.
I forgot to mention the skating rink. We're having an awesome year at the skating rink. We sealed it this year. We were able to seal it, and it held the water. The fire department did not fill it. God filled it. It was filled with rain. The ice started getting really torn up. They were using a tremendous amount of use, and then he had it let it rain. It rained for a couple of days. I closed it for 2 days. It froze solid. It came out beautiful. It rained this last time, just one day. It froze beautiful, but the backside came out a little bit off. So last night, Mike Silverstrini and I went over there, and we bought about 80 gallons of hot water. And we went out with little small buckets, and we poured it out on one side. And today I got up there, it was frozen perfect, and the kids were back out there skating. We had 26 days of skating so far. We've skated 23 of the 26. And I think it's going to be open the way the weather is for the rest of the month. So we're open 3 weeks and probably be open about 6 or 7 or 8 weeks. It's great.
So you want to Zamboni?
Just once I want to drive it. That's my wish list. Just drive a Zamboni. Thank you.
So, John, without adding to your hours of work, We did talk about, we talked about maybe having some evening events with hot chocolate and people coming out to skate. I think people would love that, and I don't know if that's.
We will,
something
we're gonna
we'll
work,
talk about and see.
we'll work towards, you
But
know.
it's not
like-
too super cold, right?
Yeah, and we'll work, we have vacations coming up. I think the February vacation has been cut short. It's only like a 4-day weekend, but that'll be a beautiful time. I'm gonna be working with Sean, the fire chief, getting the lights over there. And I work Tuesday and Thursday nights at the gym running with the basketball league. So I figured Tuesdays and Thursdays and put the lights on until 10 o'clock. And then as I come back from the gym, I can just close them. And then Friday and Saturday. So it'll be like a 4-day thing for the next month. It should work out beautiful.
That'd be great, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Taddy, are you presenting?
I am, yes, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Matt. First of all, I want to thank the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance for all their support for the Country Club of Woodbridge Pool and our kind of areas that we spill over into. The system that we have in place right now, in my opinion, I've been there for about 17 years, it's probably the best system in place for moving towards success in the future for the pool and the areas of the club. The Rec Commission, the Board of Selectmen, Building Maintenance, Jim, John, our relationship with Billy Casper is all moving forward in the right place. Yesterday I sat with Tommy Miller for about an hour from 6 to 7 o'clock, just talking about how we could help each other. And I kind of knocked on the door and it was 6 o'clock and there was no one at the golf shop and he's wondering who's there. But we just sat down, to plan some different things and how we could help each other. Because we both realize if golf does well and we do well, it kind of helps each other. We're all intertwined. So this past year we had a great season. We got the tennis courts open a little late, but I want to focus on that point. Our budget was roughly $127,000, and we realized some of our membership was down just a bit because people wasn't sure what we're doing over the winter time. We kind of adjust our costs accordingly. And as far as I know, I believe the Country Club of Woodbridge is a topic that some people pay attention to in the paper. So the last thing that we didn't want is come from the Board of Selectmen and say that we lost $20,000. Okay, so we did everything possible to create some kind of profit. Please don't hold me on this number, but I'm pretty sure after expenses, we made roughly about $7,000. And we had some challenges. The heater went down. We did a lot of repairs. The kiddie pool went down, and we did everything possible from our staff to John, giving him a chainsaw, giving him a paintbrush, and doing everything we need to help out. So we kind of adjusted things accordingly. We're gearing up for this next year. Our staff just doesn't take care of the pool. It takes care of the bathhouses, it takes care of the tent, it was taking care of the tennis, it was taking care of the clubhouse, it was cleaning the toilets. And if Ellen remembers from the year before, she had a couple complaints about the cleanliness, and this year one of our goals was not to have any complaints of cleaning in the bathhouses. And our staff just readily assumed a lot of responsibilities. We had roughly about 6,700 people come and use the pool. In my opinion, we had a great season. Our budget is basically presented as $127,000 this year. It's our goal that we will bring back a lot more members. We want to retain the members that we have, and we want to increase members from the Woodbridge area and around. And I really believe it's a tremendous asset for us to do what we're doing there, and we just want to keep building. I just have a vision, what if we had, 250 pool members and we created $200,000 profit? And I really believe that's possible, but we're starting slow and moving forward. I believe everyone has a copy of our budget. I'll be glad and eager to answer any questions that you might have.
It's a 0%.
The
Yes.
membership fee is quite reasonable,
It is.
if not inexpensive for membership. Have you thought for 2015 raising that fee?
That's a good question. We actually have that on the agenda for the Rec Commission on Monday night to vote on. They've already approved, and it hasn't been brought in front of the Rec Commission yet, half-year memberships. We're trying different strategies to bring in more revenue. On Monday night, I believe, is one item the Rec Commission is going to vote on the membership's rates for next year, and then we will bring it forth in front of the Board of Selectmen.
Anthony, can I add to that? Last year, Bob Hill and the Rec Commission, the rates last year were raised 15% from the previous year, and based on the uncertainty of the country club, we lost members to the Woodbridge Club this past year. The previous year, there wasn't tennis, and so when people signed up this year, they signed up and said, well, I went somewhere else because you didn't have tennis. Part of the way through the year, we did add, fix the tennis courts, but at that point, we were into July at that point in time. And unfortunately, one of the pieces of feedback, as much as, and Joe, you can remember this discussion about us talking about running a business, some of the residents of town don't accept the discussion of we're running a business that has to turn a profit because they look at it as being the town owns it. Why am I not getting this at a reduced rate? That's a battle we do on a regular basis in discussions. We've tried to work through it. But when we did increase last year 15%, we did get quite a bit of resistance. Anthony went through and he looked back, and I had a chance to look at some of the feedback that came back on why people didn't sign up. And there were some other reasons out there that were kind of mystifying to me, where people had certain agendas why they didn't come back.
And I think, Bob has a lot of experience and background in business, and he helped me tremendously. I would not have done a membership analysis, just internally, of why certain members maybe didn't join or did join for this year. And of course, there was very reasonable reasons. My kids are in camp all summer, or whatever. We're moving to Florida. There were several, I would say maybe 6 or 7 members that basically described that we feel the town should fund it more. And basically, we just left it at that. And a lot of those members, I have to say, at least 5 of those 7 of them came and used the daily rates throughout the summer. So it's clear they enjoy the facility, they want to come, and we're doing the best to retain those members.
It wasn't designed to be an entitlement program.
Correct, yeah.
We didn't buy it
Correct.
to be an entitlement.
Correct.
Let me add one other thing.
Correct.
In any business, when you see your customer base going down, that's usually not the time to raise prices.
How many members did we have last year?
We had roughly about 83 members.
And you're projecting 110 for...
Correct. I did try to set a very aggressive goal. We did have 5 members take our promotion, early season promotion in September. It's going to cost me 5 lunches, but that's okay. We got them to sign up, and that was a great deal. At least we have 5 members, and we have roughly 105 to go. So I wanted to set our sights on an aggressive goal, and I don't think the Board of Selectmen or the Board of Finance will be upset with us if we land at 102. And we create a $15,000 profit. So we are running it like a business. I didn't bring the numbers here, but our staff knows that we plan for people to be there and to clean and run the pool. And if the people and the weather conditions are not conducive, we keep track and say, okay, tonight you're going to leave 2 or 3 hours early. Now, it may seem like a simple thing, but we might have a cost savings of $3,000 or $4,000 by asking people, and I think we're trying to be fair. We're not trying to, stiff some lifeguards that depend on this money. They just know ahead of time what we're doing, and we're very fair about it. We keep track of it. We do on a rotating basis, so if I went home early one night and John and I are working, John's going home early the next night to reduce his number of hours. Sorry.
I'm not smiling.
Clarify what Joe just said. When you say 83 members or 100 members, you mean member families?
It's
memberships.
Membership, correct.
Not people.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
So a membership might represent
Right.
a nuclear family.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
I believe it would. Bob, I believe we're up at least 20 more members last year on top of that. 20 or more. I can't recall exactly.
Anthony, can you update me a little? I know last year also, it was a late start, and Recreation took it over late. And one of the things that was a problem is between Billy Casper and the pool, there was no food service in place right off the get-go, and there was kind of a scramble, and it got a late start, and then, from what I understand, it was very successful.
Yes.
And do we have that same vendor, or?
Yes. That's a good question. Yes, we did secure Robert Klinger. He runs a little salad shop in New Haven and a chocolate shop right next door. He did have another restaurant, I believe, Tony, correct me, it was called Swings. I'm pretty sure he lost his lease. Early on last year, we secured Robert. Robert, Tommy, and myself, we met right at the end of the season. And we were getting Robert in place he did well, but where he really made some of his profit is on catering some of the events. And because of some of the uncertainty, when Tommy Miller from Billy Casper booked an outing in, say, January, he didn't have a vendor, so he might have booked another food source for that. One of the things that I kind of encouraged was for Billy Casper to use Robert from the Little Salad Shop as much as he can. We had almost no complaints on the food. This way, he will be solely in charge of the food service at the snack bar and at the tent. And I'm looking, it hasn't been approved yet, but let's just say if someone brings an outside caterer in, then Robert will still help set up the event, and there will be a fee that Robert will maybe $200-300 fee that he'll collect, but he'll manage the event. So he's taking care of some of the assets of the town, like the dishes, the glasses, and things that are all owned by the town of Woodbridge. So we have everything in place. I know Billy Casper talking to Tommy last night. They have almost double the outings booked for last year, which is great. Tent was really moving last year, so I think we're really in a good place.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
John, you coming back?
I'm done. Matt, I almost wore shorts. Almost.
I'm thankful you didn't, John. It's a tough view. Tax collector. Tab 1155. Why don't you just highlight your budget for us? Anything special you want to mention to us? It looks pretty standard to me.
Yeah, not too many changes. Postage rates, of course, have gone up again. So we expect to spend a little more this year than we had budgeted for. So I've asked for more for next year. Printing costs have gone up again. And we've asked for more for our car allowance. Linda, we not only do the deposits for our office, but we now do them for all the town functions, for recreation, for human services, for those. So her bank runs have increased a little, and we need a little bit more money for that. I think everything else still stayed about the same.
Okay. Any questions for Pat?
Thank you, Pat.
Any
Okay.
questions? Nobody.
Well done.
We don't have to ask you about your tax collection rate. We know what it is.
Oh, okay.
99.5%.
Yeah, well, that would be amazing. I just like 99.7.
When you break 100, we'll talk to you.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you.
Next is town clerk. 1125.
Well, your stuff is in my budget too. All right, I'm going to give you, the book went to the printer.
The book?
No, this isn't on my agenda, but I'm just going to pass it around so when I ask for $1 million more on the budget, you won't notice. Okay.
It's printed?
It's
Ready?
the printer, this is approved.
Oh, this is the
So
printer's
the
proof?
pages are not
Ready? But you're gonna have it.
attached too well yet, but yeah.
So be careful.
We'll have it in
When do you
about
expect it?
4 to 5 weeks, I hope. 4 to 5 weeks.
Shouldn't
We're
we be
going-
wearing gloves?
Not yet. It's not old enough yet.
Very nice. Very nice.
Okay,
When are they
so-
gonna be ready for sale, Pat?
Probably beginning of
You can
March,
buy
I
one
think,
now.
we'll have it back.
You can pre-order.
I saw there's a pre-order form on the website.
We have over $2,000 back.
What do we have, easy
So
packs
far.
here?
Absolutely. I've been
We're
saying
working
it,
on
every
that.
board is letting me, pre-order, pre-order.
I'm
Get the dough in.
Stephanie, is there anything in your budget you wanted to highlight for us?
Well,
Again, it looks pretty.
you know, I left the land records are still the same. The company has kept the rates the same for our land records. So far, so good. So, barring any big changes, if we do take in more land records, more mortgages and more warranty deeds, we'll be taking in more money to correspond with that. So that should still be a wash, so we should be okay. So I left that alone. I lowered the postage a little bit, and I lowered the election supplies. We'll have the presidential preference primary next spring and the Amity referendum. So the following budget will have the presidential election, so that will be back to the 12,000. But that's about it. Did you have any questions for me?
Just remember, you owe us money.
I'm
I just want to put that on the table.
I'm working on it. That's why I thought if you looked at the book, you would kind of. That's for sure. But thank you very much, and you're all in the book, just so that you know, you're all in the book.
So what happens if we sold out? Can you order more?
Well, we ordered 1,000 copies,
Okay.
so I think that'll take us.
That'll do it?
The last shot was 750,
And they all
and it took us 19 years to sell them all, so. We're gonna advertise a lot more this time. You know, we'll be doing, we did a lot of work. Might only take us 18 years, yes.
These pictures are great.
They're beautiful. And Sheila
Quality,
McCrevin,
that's
boy,
what
let me
gives
tell
you-
you, what a wonderful, wonderful job she's done. I'm amazed, I am. It was a lot of work. We thought it was gonna be a 1 or 2 month process. It ended up being 6 months, but.
It's like a construction project.
It is. We could have built the public works garage right now.
What is the price of the book again?
The price of the book is gonna be $45.
What is that?
I have forms.
Yeah, I have, the forms are right out here. They're right on the desk
right
out
out
here,
there.
too.
Okay.
Yep,
Any other questions for Stephanie?
I too.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Okay.
Okay, next is Registrar of
You're up.
Voters.
I
Which
just want
is-
to quote Anthony Patty, "We're glad and eager to answer your questions."
11:30.
Questions on this budget, I mean, it's good.
Registrar of Voters. Doesn't look like there's much we can ask about this one. Anything you want to mention to us? It is what it is, right?
Yeah, we have the presidential preference primaries, and we have the Amity referendum, so any line items associated with elections have gone up. We have a brand-new registrar, and I know you're all aware that, this is Anna Dickerson, the other registrar, and I know you're all aware that there were some problems statewide with the November elections, so we can anticipate some training costs to going forward. The state may mandate some more training for us. And
I don't think,
locally-
we didn't have problems.
We didn't have any problems
But they'll
at
be
all.
mandated for everyone, you think?
That's my
Likely.
understanding, is that our county meetings will increase, and that there may be more trainings from SOTS.
The Hartford
We already have
Council,
more
I
than
think,
enough
moved
training.
to
abolish the
move its
registers.
registrars.
I saw that.
So you better do a good job.
Yes, we anticipate that there'll be more trainings from the state, and of course, with the new registrar, we have, we have to make use of any training we can get. We had something come up yesterday, as a matter of fact, with an unanticipated challenge. The Republican Town Committee missed their deadline for filing, so we had to issue a primary petition so that we could get their slate certified by the state. So they have to go out now and get 5% of their enrollment to sign a petition. And, frankly, even as a trained registrar, I hadn't dealt with that before. But, certainly Anna, with 2 weeks under her belt.
Welcome to the job.
But a nice thing to show how well our office works
in not a nonpartisan, but a bipartisan way, that we work together to assist the Republican Town Committee with their needs so they can get their slate certified.
So I wanted to say welcome to Anna. And I know, although I have not worked as a registrar, what a very complex job it is. There's so much to it in the routine matters, let alone the once every 5 or 10 year matters. So certainly we appreciate the time you put into it and the training that's necessary. Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
I have just one. I was looking under the performance indicators. It looks to me like each year we're still expecting an increase in both number of voters as well as transactions. Well, transactions kind of goes up then to back down.
Right.
Any particular reason that's happening? I mean,
We always anticipate more voters when there's presidential, and so that makes people want to register and vote. We had same-day registration this past year, and we were convinced that in our sleepy little town, well-educated with people not transitioning from town to town or location to location, that we were going to get almost none. We almost didn't staff it, but we did with advice by the state, and we had 50 people register to vote on same-day registration.
so Jeanette, will that be happening again?
I assume, well, yes, we do same-day registration for the presidential preference primaries, so I assume that those numbers will continue to rise as we head into 2016 with the presidential.
That's great, thank you.
That's always our assumption. And besides, it is our job to work toward increased participation.
Yes, as registrar.
Anything else? No?
No, it's good, man.
You have enough to say here?
Stephanie's gonna get
No,
awards
I'm just
before she
excited.
leaves, because they're not out there.
Thank you.
I bring them every month, and you don't ask me.
There is, yeah, I was gonna run over and get those.
Stephanie,
Do you like it? Yes, it really is.
Yeah.
It came out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you guys have an empty room. They all want them.
No, we're all done. It's all us here.
Thanks, Steph.
Wow, it's heavy.
We bring them every month, and they don't want them. Now they want them.
It's like you pass these houses every day, and you don't realize the history that's associated with them. And it's
The color is just,
Took out 7 p.m.
And I love the pictures of, the
people.
who used to live there.
and there's more history of the people than just the homes. That was the best part. I've seen it here.
Control.
Okay, let's move on. Board of Finance, 1170. As you can see, as Tony explained at the very beginning, we have a whole lot of labor negotiations going on this year, and there's no raises in here, so obviously that number could change. And
It's and everything tied to, as you'll see in the benefits when we get to that
Right.
outline, tied to that.
And whatever money is left in the Board of, obviously, the Board of Finance really has no expenses. So whatever's left goes back to the town anyway. Are there any questions on this?
What's the contingency?
Oh, we have, there's no wage increases in the budget, so they'll come through and be paid out of contingency. And there's labor negotiations,
Correct. The
Public
contracts
Works.
are up July 31st.
Board of Ed.
Right.
So whatever those raises are,
Public Works and Town Hall
right,
employees.
will not be in the budget, say, for the Board of Ed, it's gonna come out of our
It's
contingency.
not Board of Ed, it's just Town Hall and.
Not Board of Ed?
No.
Just Town Hall?
Public Works and Police
Public Works.
and Town Hall.
So we have more of those anticipated than we had last year because there's a big difference.
It's only every four, this is a 5-year contract, so there hasn't been a negotiation in 5 years.
Okay, so the 180.
Last year was just contingency was for unanticipated expenditures, which would be the same this year in addition to the contract issue. We sometimes, aside from totally unanticipated expenditures like the book, we use it for if we have a bad snow year, Public Works, some of you have seen this before, Special Education, Board of Ed.
So that just goes up or down depending upon what the contingencies for that particular.
Correct, what that particular year is for.
So we have a little heavier contingency.
So the Board of Finance has it in their budget so they have more control over items that may not necessarily happen.
Okay.
And the
Nothing else?
audit's up for bid this year, so I'm not that's just an estimate.
Okay, let's move on to Board of Selectmen. You want to do capital first, Tony?
Sure.
Is there anything?
There's two items in capital. They're both for planning purposes. They're both bondable, or items that you would normally borrow money for. And it's important to have these in here, so when I do my estimates for debt service going out 10 years or 20 years, I have some idea of what may be coming up in the next 6 years. So that's why it's sort of important. They're sort of important. One is open space, and the other is the restoration of the firehouse. I'm sure you'll hear more about that at the next meeting when you go through some of the documents that were created as a result of some of the past studies and such. But those are the two. The firehouse restoration amount is as requested by the building committee for the firehouse restoration. So that's the capital piece.
Okay. All right, as far as the operating budget, nothing special in here.
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
In terms of the other purchase services?
Sure.
So
I can explain that.
Okay, could you?
Sure. So there was an additional amount put in this year's request for, more specifically for community events.
Okay.
Community-related events.
I could speak a little bit more to that. You know, this year we did so far we've done the collaboration with Long Wharf, which I'd like to do again. We're also talking to the Arts and Ideas Festival about doing a pop-up festival here in Woodbridge. And as we talk about it, there are expenses that come up, and we don't have much room in our budget to participate. And I think what's really important, one of the things we've talked about, is not having a real town center. We need to develop and take advantage of every opportunity for building community. And so this gives us a little more room to do that.
And so to communicate with residents for that and a number of issues that may come up, you'll see an increase in printing and binding also. Sort of, kind of related, you know.
Okay.
And then the census?
That's an increase of $1,000. That's for the census, person who does the census for us, and that's for expenses and a stipend related to the census.
And
so
then
that's an
it
increase in the
ends during
stipend.
that fiscal year, so there's nothing going forward?
No, this is, the way this document works is, the first column is for the Board of, these are department requests. So then, when the Board of Selectmen reviews the budget, they'll have a proposed amount, that'll be for the second column. Then the Board of Finance is in the third column, and then the town adopted budget after the town meeting would be the last column. So this
there'll
is
be a future expense to the census?
correct. There is every year. It's by, yeah, I believe we have to have someone.
It's pretty much every year then?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and we've had one forever, as far as I know.
Okay, thank you, Tony.
Okay.
With regard to the census, I know I ask this a lot, but in terms of getting people's occupation and their email address, is that something that we can add to our census?
We could certainly ask.
It doesn't mean that everybody will provide it, but I think that could be very useful information.
I could certainly find that out.
And then, from a website perspective, we can push the option of people signing up for the website out to them instead of them having to take the initiative
Sure.
to do
Is
that.
the census a public document? I don't know. Just wondering. It's to your point.
Oh, it may not.
I don't know the answer to
That's a
that.
good point.
Parts are, I'm sure, but I'm not
Right,
sure if
but I'm
all
not
parts
sure.
are.
Many years ago,
I
the
don't know the
registrars used to
answer.
have it, and then we just said we didn't need it because we couldn't use it for anything, but I don't
If
know
it
if it's
isn't, we
public or
don't
not.
have to
So if it isn't, that won't help us, but, you know,
Oh,
I just don't know.
I'll certainly look
Because-
into it, sure.
Because
Yeah.
both of those are very.
If it is, it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a good way for us to get
Okay.
additional. And also, instead of administrative officer, isn't the
It's supposed to
title
be assistant,
assistant?
yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why that didn't print out. It's a very good catch.
Tony, for a number of years, we talked about the Amity Teen Center, and we haven't talked about it in a long time. But we fund $10,000.
Correct.
Do we have any idea if Orange and Bethany are still funding that? I don't know if you would know that, or if you could find out.
I could find out, I don't know
And
offhand.
maybe some
That's a
usage.
good question.
Well, we always had that issue where, you know, anybody from Amity can use it, and we were the only ones funding it. I don't
I will
know,
find out
Orange,
for you.
Orange had pulled it out, they didn't want to do it
You
anymore.
want to know funding and also the,
Well, yeah, if we could get some kind of, usage.
some usage numbers, yeah.
Can't even New Haven residents
I don't know.
use it on certain nights as well? I think it's open to even more than just the 3 towns
Possibly.
on given nights.
I honestly don't know.
Which would make even more of a question.
Yeah. So
I'll certainly find out for you.
Yeah,
Report at
good.
the next budget
Maybe
meeting.
next meeting.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could speak to, what was it, Linda Cohen?
Linda Cohen, yeah.
I'm just curious if Bethany and Orange are still contributing to that.
What line does that come out?
Comes out
It's
of
52,300, regional services.
regional services.
It's the biggest part of that. Okay.
It mentions it in the detail.
Any other questions on Board of Selectmen? Alrighty. No, we can go to probate court, but I'm sure it's nothing, it's a flat. That's by statute.
Right.
13.5, general administration, 1140, which I believe is mostly insurance.
Right.
Any idea on that, Tony? Is that just
We're pretty flat on
an
insurance
estimate?
this year. It's an estimate. We'll get it better refined as the time goes on, but I think that's pretty close. I think we're pretty, our liability, auto, and property rates are pretty flat, but the, not the case with workers' comp, but with liability, auto, and property we are, so I think that's pretty good, a pretty good number.
And in all these budgets, you're gonna be looking at utilities.
Of course.
Electric and.
I look at utilities, gas, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I'll check to make sure the
Because
numbers are
I notice
correct.
everybody's are just like flat,
Right.
so. Okay.
For gasoline, Tony, are we on a yearly contract? with
Yes.
this?
We are. We just bid it a little while ago.
That should be
I want to say
interesting.
it's below $2.
Wow.
Oh, my
We
God.
got $1.93 maybe.
So good.
That neighbor.
How about heating oil today
Around
for
there.
204?
Who would have thought?
And diesel's, I don't remember diesel, it's a little over
Diesel's higher,
$2.
yeah. Diesel's higher. Anything else on general administration? All right, info systems, 1145. Slight increase, which I'm sure is just inflation.
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, the telephone is probably one of the bigger ones, and that's 2 things. The connection to the Nutmeg Network, and which we've discussed at the selectmen's meetings, and an internet connection for the Public Works facility, which previously they did not have.
Right.
The old building.
Yes.
As you can imagine.
Oh, that's Just yelled
Well,
across
they
the
did,
front.
but they had the little
With the
string
can
with
with
the
right.
cups.
Right. Right.
So I do have one question about the tech support.
Sure.
So I know that fire and police have their own arrangements.
So police uses they have their own budget for it, but they have the same arrangement we do.
Okay. But fire does not.
Fire does not. So
Okay.
it's certainly something we always looking to see if we can
So
maximize
we
on
can
that.
ask when they present,
Yeah.
like, why they have to have their own.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Tony, as far as this being where we would look for if there is a needed upgrade to QSEN,
Correct.
if also for recreation to get that,
Correct.
that
This is
would
also
all
here.
end up in here.
Correct. That's absolutely correct. Software maintenance is where all of the maintenance contracts, there's a list of them in here in detail. You'll see all of our maintenance contracts, and QSEN is one of them. And so if we were going to do, it depends sort of what we were going to do. If it's something somewhat minor and just some programming required, we could take it out of here. As opposed to something major, then it would require a lot more funding.
So, for example, Jody had made a request, if we end up where it's just economic development, maybe making a few changes, it would be
Right.
minor.
Right.
Opposed to maybe the town decides it wants to make changes on the.
A different vendor or a different, whole different setup, correct.
Gotcha. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any other questions on this? Okay. Where was I?
Finance department.
Finance department.
Tony, you doing all these budgets?
Yeah.
They're not zero-based?
They are.
Should we?
They are zero-based.
I'm sorry, the devil made me. I'm sorry.
So noted.
Any questions on the finance department? Again, this is Tony's department, and I don't see anything of significance here. Okay. And finally, animal control, which is $12.50. You want to go over the capital first, Tony?
Sure.
And then I'm sure you can explain how this is going.
Sure.
With Derby, et cetera.
Right. So the capital actually came from animal control in the, so they, this is a request from animal control, and you could see we've split the funding for that amongst the 3 towns. There's a little footnote there, you can see the funding. And there's a request for vehicle replacements, which I believe are, they're quite old. I'm not sure exactly how old. I want to see there.
2005.
Say it on there? Yeah.
One has 141,000, the other has 131,000.
And then the other is for an outdoor kennel for, if you've been down there, the kennels are sort of, they have rocks and no cover really. They're covered with, sometimes with canvas or stuff.
It's tarps or something.
Tarps, right. So this request is for a more permanent structure. And finally, there's fences to complete the fencing around the facility, sort of half fenced in, half not fenced in. So those are the 3 capital requests for animal control.
And at this time, Tony,
There's no
way to predict as far as the water and the situation we're having with it.
Actually, we've done the record keeping on the capacity, and so now there's a system that's being designed to be able to generate water for the capacity that was metered over, I think, 3 weeks to see what sort of the use is.
There was a roof issue that was in the capital budget.
It's in building maintenance.
Oh.
So these are more program sort of things.
Oh, uh-huh. Yeah.
The building maintenance.
Oh, I see
one is
it.
in maintenance,
Yeah. Okay.
I think Adam had brought that up to us.
Right. I knew I heard it. I didn't,
Brad?
but I didn't see it here. No, Brad brought it.
They're not here, I can't tell them apart. It's only been 25 years.
I see it.
Okay, as far as the budget for regional, why don't you just give us a brief rundown of how it's going, Tony?
Yeah.
Obviously, we're paying the load here.
Well, so that's one thing we're looking at is, first let me explain the budget is in its entirety is a $231,000 requested budget. And just so as it was originally structured, the town of Woodbridge would pay a large portion of that. We're currently looking at is a more equitable share of those costs based on activity, based on use, and not so much as it's currently structured. So that's one thing that'll hopefully most likely impact this figure. And the other is working with other towns, of which a couple we've already been discussing, at least 2 or 3 that we've been reached out to and are currently discussing that with. So this could change significantly. This is just sort of the first, where we are right now.
Tony, does the state require towns to have or participate in a district animal control facility?
I think the state, you need to provide a function, but you don't have to have the facility. Right? I think
you don't have to have a facility.
You just need to provide the function.
You have to have a function.
You have to bring them somewhere else.
Right, you could bring them somewhere else. It could be
rent
another
space
town,
in
it
a
could be-
veterinary clinic.
Right.
But you have to have the function of an AC.
Of course, this thing became unglued when Orange dropped out. We had and unfortunately, it's improved immensely. It was a mess, let's be honest about it.
Yeah.
But it's improved immensely, so.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Did I catch you up, Matt? Roughly, Derby, Bethany, 50,000 apiece this year?
I'm sorry, for what?
Were they about 50,000 apiece for this year?
Yeah, it's
Derby?
47.
Yeah, we're correct.
Yeah,
40, that's right, yeah. So it's 45 from 44, and then we're at 123, but if you look at the use, it's a lot different.
They've been pretty equal with us.
Right.
It's not
I think
higher.
Derby is quite a bit, right?
Derby's a lot,
Is the use based on the
Yeah,
number
talk to
of
Derby.
occupants? Is that-
There's sort of a lot of different ways to look at it.
There's different ways
There's
of
occupants,
calculating
there's calls, there's
Calls.
population, which is, you know,
Right.
so
And
we
that's
sort of have to
tricky.
figure that out.
That's tricky because you don't know until after the fact.
So how are those towns receiving this discussion?
The meeting
If I
hasn't
may
occurred
ask?
yet.
Okay.
Jerry shows
I
we're
prepared all the
going.
documents,
So we're
we're in the process of.
We should go to their budget hearing.
We've got the data.
Okay, yeah.
Tony's
Well, I
looking at the
remember,
data.
you know, when Tony gives us those, just anecdotally by memory, a lot of the other towns had more calls than we did.
Right.
you know,
Correct.
so-
Especially Derby.
And we have the facility and.
Right,
Yeah.
and Derby there's a lot of overtime generated from
Putting some
Derby
capital
also.
with that facility.
Do we know how the allocation was originally determined? I know it was.
I think
a while
Bethany's,
back,
you
but-
know, when Orange dropped out, Bethany, you know, Bethany's always been tough with, you know, with paying, you know, they won't pay their share of the resource officer at the high school. They'll only pay his hourly rate, they won't pay any benefits. Well, the guy is pretty much, you know, devoted to the high school. They won't pay a fair share of that. We've always had a problem with Bethany, but I think, you gotta look at it. I mean, definitely we need to
Yeah,
look at it. It's
definitely.
something they need and,
Correct.
and then there's no better gauge than the number and type of calls, so.
Facts.
Yeah. And I
Right.
think we discussed
Right.
that we're gonna have some capital
Yeah.
expenditures.
And it would be same with the capital.
Yeah.
They're gonna need
For raising
that.
capital is similar.
Absolutely.
It's still a bargain to have, to get animal service for $45,000.
Right.
Do we have any, reaching out to other towns, is there any, have we drummed up any interest? I mean, is there any, it's nice to say that. I guess my question is there any
Is it likely?
legitimate interest out there for?
We have-
Bless you.
There's definitely some more so than others, but they're not exactly banging our doors down to take over our facility.
Well, do you have to be contiguous?
No, I don't think so, no.
So as long as Rover was willing to
Yeah, I mean,
travel
we're
people
not,
down.
yeah, we're not looking to go into Richfield or whatever. But, Milford, Orange is a natural, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Orange is with Milford, right?
Orange is
Yeah.
with Milford.
Milford has a
Seymour,
grand-
Milford has, I was gonna say, they have a more sophisticated.
maybe Oxford, it's not too far.
Well, we were
away.
using the Seymour as our, when Karen was,
They're not
not-
ACO, right?
We're using their ACO,
Yeah, the
correct.
ACO.
Yeah.
and they don't have a very big facility, but that's one of the towns that maybe somebody look at. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, anything else? An hour and 10 minutes early, and yes.
Thank you to Tony and Karen, thank you so
Absolutely.
much for
Carol,
this
yes,
incredible.
These are all just so amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will see you on Tuesday evening. And I promise you, we won't be here as late as that one says either.